Hi, today I'm reading chapter 6 from the Gospel of the Holy 12, which is about the childhood and young age of Jesus, and we find some information that is excluded from the official Gospels, which is actually very interesting, because we learn some more details about the life of Jesus. So today I'm going to read until verse 6, and let's examine these verses. So here they are. Now Joseph and Mary, his parents, went up to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover, and they observed the feast after the manner of their brothers, who abstained from bloodshed and the eating of flesh and from strong drink. And when he was 12 years old, he went to Jerusalem with them, after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem. And his parents knew not of it, but they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their relatives and acquaintances, and when they found him not, turned back to Jerusalem seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him they were amazed, and his mother said to him, Son, why have you dealt with us like this? Behold, your father and I have sought you, sorrowing. And he said to them, How is it that you sought me? Do you not know that I must be in my parents' house? They understood not the sayings which he said to them. But his mother kept all the sayings in her heart. And a certain prophet, seeing him, said to him, Behold, the love and the wisdom of God are one in you. Therefore in the age to come you will be called Jesu Maria, for by the Christ God will save mankind, which now is verily as the bitterness of the sea, but it will be turned into sweetness. But to this generation the bride will not be manifest, nor yet to the age to come. And he went down with them, and came to Nazareth, and was subject to them. And he made wheels and yokes and tables also with great skill. And Jesus increased in stature and in favor with God and man. So these are the verses for today. Let's see what are their messages. So it says that Joseph and Mary went to Jerusalem every year to celebrate the Passover according to the custom. And the Passover was perhaps the most important feast in Judaism. And it was about the liberation of Israel from slavery, from Pharaoh. And so they celebrated this feast according to the manner of their brothers, as it is written, who abstained from bloodshed and the eating of flesh and from strong drink. So these were a special category of people to which Mary, Joseph and their relatives belonged. This category of people were very dedicated to God, and they did not eat meat, and they did not drink strong drinks like wine or drinks that contained drugs. And these were people who lived a very pure life, who wanted to live like the first people that God created, like Adam and Eve in paradise. Because if you read in Genesis, when God created humans and animals, He had created them all to be vegetarian. And they were all vegetarian in this uh, paradise earth before it was corrupted by sin. And There was no harm, no cruelty, no killings of any kind. So Mary, Joseph and their relatives, they wanted to return to this way of life, to this state of purity. And this category of people had a special name. I don't remember well, but it's written in the Old Testament. I think they were called Nazarenes or something like that. And they were really very devoted to God, and they had great respect for all forms of life, for all the creatures of God. They loved animals, and they never killed any living being. And it says that when Jesus was 12 years old, he went with his parents to the feast. But when they returned, he was left in Jerusalem, and nobody realized, because there were many people together. Mary and Joseph had many relatives, many brothers and sisters with children. Maybe there were many uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, and acquaintances as well. Not only relatives, but friends had followed them as well. It seems that they were nice people and they had a lot of friends. So they traveled, all of them together, and the children played with each other, and the parents were chatting with each other. And so they didn't realize that Jesus was left behind. And they walked for a whole day, and when they realized that he was missing, of course they were very worried and desperate, as all parents would be if they lost their child. And they returned immediately to Jerusalem. And it says that they looked for him for 3 days. It took time to find him. They were probably looking for him everywhere, and they didn't know where he was. And after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors. The doctors were the intellectual people of that time, hearing them and asking them questions. So he was listening to them with attention and asking questions. He was open-minded. He wanted to learn new things. And it says that they were astonished at his understanding and answers. He understood everything they told him, even if they talked to him about complicated philosophical matters or spiritual things. He understood them very easily, although he was so young. And he gave them good answers. He gave them wise answers. So they were surprised to see how spiritual he was. And he was really very intelligent, and he loved learning. He had interest in other people, in their thoughts. He was interested in listening to them. He was not proud. He did not think that he knew everything himself. He wanted to learn. And when his mother found him, she was angry with him. She said to him, "Son, why have you dealt with us like this? Look, your father and I have sought you, sorrowing. We have been desperate. We have been so worried for you. How could you treat us like that? You forgot us. You did not care for us. You let us being so upset and worried for you." And Jesus said to her, why do you look for me? Don't you know that I must be in my parents' house? Here, instead of saying my father's house, it says my parents' house, because God does not have a gender. He has both male and female qualities, and He is a spirit. And in this gospel He is often called as the parent of all, or as the mother, father. And so He said to them that He was in His parents' house, in the house of God, in the temple, and He felt that God was his parent. It was something that He knew in His heart. And we also feel like that. If we believe in God, we feel that we are children of God, that God has adopted us, that He cares for us. And this is faith. It is a conviction. It's not something that we have been taught or that other people have told us. It's something that we feel in us. And it says that his mother was impressed and she kept all these things in her heart. And of course she was very angry with him, because she thought that he had no understanding for her, or that he didn't care for her and Joseph enough. But it was not like that. It's just that Jesus was a child, and children sometimes cannot understand why their parents are so worried for them. And parents always are very worried if their children do not obey them, or if they do something that is wrong. But children are naive, and they don't have a sense of danger, or they don't understand the problems like adults do. They have their own way of thinking, and they're very innocent and naive. And Jesus was a child too. He was a normal child, and he thought like a child, he reasoned like a child, although he was intelligent and wise, and he was interested in spiritual things. And of course he was interested also because his parents were spiritual and they were a good influence on him. So it says that a prophet saw him and said to him, "Behold, the love and the wisdom of God are one in you. Therefore in the age to come you will be called Jesu Maria," which means Savior. For by the Christ God will save mankind. And mankind, which is now as the bitterness of the sea, but it will be turned into sweetness. And indeed humans are bitter, they're hard, they're full of weaknesses and defects, and negative feelings and thoughts. And God knows it. He knows that we are imperfect, and Christ came to help us improve ourselves, to soften our hearts, to purify us, to show us what real love is about, to teach us how to love in a genuine way. So it says that now mankind is like the bitterness of the sea, but it will be turned into sweetness. But to this generation the bride will not be manifest, nor yet to the age to come. With this generation the bride, which is Christ Himself, and His church, His people, are not manifest. People are still imperfect. We have not reached perfection yet. This will happen in the future when Jesus returns to establish His kingdom, to turn the earth into a paradise again, to make it as it was in the beginning, according to the prophecies. So it says that after that Jesus went to Nazareth with his parents, and he was obedient to them. He didn't want to hurt them. He probably felt sorry for upsetting them, and he tried to make up for it, and he was very nice to them. And then he learned how to make wheels and yokes and tables with great skill like his father. He was also skillful, talented, and good at his job. So he learned the job of his father. And he grew up. It says that he increased in stature and in favor with God and man. He pleased both men and God, so everyone liked him, both people and God, because he was so nice and kind to everyone. He was just, reasonable, wise. He had all the good qualities, both as a person and as a Christian, as a child of God.